So you're thinking about moving to Fort Mill, South Carolina, but you want to know the good and the bad, the yin, the yang, the pros and the cons about living here in Fort Mill, South Carolina. And that's exactly what we're going to cover on today's video, because people looking to move to Fort Mill ask that very question. And a lot of times they're considering Fort Mill or Rock Hill or Indian Land or Lake Wylie, and they're trying to find the best fit for them. And our clients are usually looking to do a comparison of the overall area. You know, that area just south of Charlotte over the border into South Carolina. So we have these conversations with our clients every single day, and I thought it'd be a great opportunity to shoot a video and tell you a little bit about the good and the bad about living here in Fort Mill, South Carolina, so you guys know up front. And if this is your first time on the channel and you want to make sure you know everything there is to know about the Charlotte area, make sure you click that subscribe button and turn notifications on so you can be the first to know everything going on in our Charlotte market. My name is Josh Finigan, team leader with the Finigan Group, powered by eXp Realty, and we get calls, texts, and emails every single day from people just like yourself looking to move to the Charlotte area, and we absolutely love it. So whether you're looking to move in 9 days or 90 days, give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email, or schedule a Zoom call so we can meet face to face. The link is in the description below. We'd love to make your transition to Charlotte a smooth one. So as I mentioned earlier, today we're going to be focusing on Fort Mill, South Carolina, and we're going to be reviewing some of the pros about living here in Fort Mill and some of the cons about living here in Fort Mill as well. Fort Mill, South Carolina is just about 20 miles south of Charlotte, North Carolina, just over the border into South Carolina. It's a straight shot to get from Fort Mill to Charlotte. You just take I-77 up, and that's one of the fantastic things about Fort Mill. And the first pro we're going to discuss is its fantastic location. It's because of Fort Mill's prime location that many people love calling it home. I mean, a lot of people love to work in Charlotte, North Carolina, then commute back to Fort Mill to live. So when you live here in Fort Mill, South Carolina, you really have the best of both worlds. You have a small, close-knit community you can call home, but you still have easy access to all the big city amenities. Depending on which part of Fort Mill you live and the traffic, you're only about 25 to 45 minutes from Charlotte City Center and 25 to 30 minutes from the Charlotte International Airport. Not to mention you're super close to Lake Wylie and the Catawba River, which brings us to our next pro, the abundance of things to do for the entire family. You're only a few minutes away from Lake Wylie when you call Fort Mill, South Carolina your home, which means you have easy access to the highly coveted lake life, boating, swimming, skiing, or just bathing in the sun. Or you could just grab your tube and head on down to the Catawba River, where you can jump on in, float down, and where you end is actually a fantastic restaurant called the Pump House. Not to mention, you're a short 15-minute drive away from Carowinds, a world-renowned amusement park that gives you over 60 roller coasters to choose from and a very large water park. And if you love nature, then you're going to love Fort Mill, because there are a lot of parks and greenways, most notably the Ann Springs Greenway. It's a 2,100-acre nature preserve that's a haven for hiking, biking, fishing, and horseback riding. And if you love golf, then you're in luck, because they have the Fort Mill Golf Course. It's a 18-hole championship golf course founded in 1948. And Fort Mill hosts a ton of community events all throughout the year that really brings this community together, like the annual Strawberry Picking Festival. Talking about all these great things to do brings me to my next pro about living here in Fort Mill, and it's all the access to the great restaurants and shops in the area. Fort Mill has access to not one, not two, but 3 different walkable restaurant and shop areas, and we're actually here in one of them today, the Kingsley Town Center. Kingsley Town Center is Fort Mill's newest addition. It's a super cool urban development that gives you a lot of great access to some great restaurants and shops, and it has a really awesome old mill aesthetic. You'll love visiting Taco Molina, which is actually right behind me, for some fantastic Mexican dishes, or you can go visit Napa at Kingsley to have a romantic date night with your significant other overlooking the water. You'll also have easy access to downtown historic Fort Mill. It's really the heartbeat of Fort Mill, South Carolina. It's extremely walkable. There's a lot of great shops and restaurants and community events throughout the year. If you want some nice craft beer, then you'll definitely want to visit the Armor Artist Brewery right downtown. And if you're feeling a little spicy, then you definitely want to go visit the Pucker Butt Pepper Company, where you can find Smokin' Ed Curry, the creator of the Carolina Reaper, the world's hottest pepper. Actually, not the world's hottest pepper anymore, because he just released Pepper X, which is now the world's hottest pepper. Or you can go visit Olive's Mud Puddle for the best coffee and pastries in town. Downtown Fort Mill is also where you're going to find the Fort Mill Farmers Market if you're looking for that nice, fresh, local produce. And you also have access to another walkable district in Baxter Village, which is a highly sought after community that has a mixed use area that has some fantastic locally owned restaurants and shops. You'll love visiting the fish market. They have some fantastic seafood and a friendly outdoor patio. And you'll definitely need to create a new Sunday brunch tradition by visiting the Lucky Duck Gastropub, where they have $1 mimosas. Who can beat that? So you're gonna have easy access to all three of these walkable restaurant and shopping districts, super close to each other, and they all have a unique vibe and culture about them. So there's always something new to do and new to try here in Fort Mill. So positive number 3 is the super low crime rates here in Fort Mill, South Carolina. Fort Mill is generally regarded as a very safe place to live. CrimeGrade.org gave Fort Mill, South Carolina an A+ for safety and said it's safer than 97% of other cities in the United States. Fort Mill is also consistently ranked as the safest city in South Carolina by niche.com. Now guys, the next pro is actually one of the biggest positives about living here in Fort Mill, and that is the school district. Many people move to Fort Mill strictly for the schools. Niche.com ranked the Fort Mill School District as the #1 school district in the Charlotte area and also the #1 school district in all of South Carolina. The last pro that we will review today is the low property taxes here in Fort Mill, South Carolina. That's another big reason why a lot of people move to Fort Mill. We have a lot of clients that live in North Carolina, right around the Charlotte area, that actually move just across the border to Fort Mill or one of the other South Carolina cities to actually take advantage of the lower property taxes. And I will say this one is kind of a half con because recently the Fort Mill property taxes have increased quite a lot. And it's really because of what we just discussed, the schools. Fort Mill has a very strong school district like we just discussed. So those taxes are going to the school district to make it as desirable as it is. So let's go ahead and jump into some of the cons about living here in Fort Mill. And the #1 con definitely has to be the traffic. Now, Fort Mill, South Carolina is growing by leaps and bounds, which means you can find a lot of traffic and you may find yourself battling traffic to and from work or just getting around throughout the city. If you do find yourself living in Fort Mill and commuting to Charlotte to work, which a lot of people in Fort Mill find themselves doing, then you're gonna find that it takes about 20 to 25 minutes to get to Charlotte City Center outside of rush hour, but it can take you between 45 minutes up to an hour during rush hour to get to the office. The main artery to and from Fort Mill, South Carolina, which is I-77, does get backed up pretty bad during the rush hour times. And there is no toll road or expressway on I-77 south of Charlotte like there is I-77 north of Charlotte. And it really depends on where you live in Fort Mill as well. When you look at Fort Mill, you're gonna find there's a portion of Fort Mill that's just south of Charlotte, right by I-77. It's gonna be a little bit easier of a commute if you kind of live in this part of Fort Mill. Now there's a big portion of Fort Mill that flanks east and actually dips all the way below Rock Hill, South Carolina, which could be pretty far depending on where you're going. So if you live in the lower east quadrant of Fort Mill, then your commute could be even longer. And there's not really many main roads to get you to and from I-77, so you can make an easy transition to and from Charlotte. And this brings us to our next con about living here in Fort Mill is there's little infrastructure in this lower east quadrant of Fort Mill. Like if you wanted to go to, say, Costco, you're probably gonna have to go to Charlotte to get it to a Costco. If you wanted to go to some major retail shopping centers, you're either gonna have to go to South Park Mall or Carolina Place Mall. There's just not a ton of infrastructure right there. It's more kind of a residential neighborhood setting. But if you live in the other side of Fort Mill that's directly under Charlotte that hugs that I-77 corridor, you also have Highway 160, you're gonna find a lot more infrastructure, a lot more shopping, restaurants, and things to do. And the last con about living here in Fort Mill is the housing market. Obviously, from the previous part of the video when we reviewed the pros, this is an awesome place to live. It's a highly desired place to live, but that means it's very competitive if you're looking for a property. There's very low amount of inventory and there's a lot of competition on the homes for sale here in Fort Mill. The average price for a home here in Fort Mill, South Carolina is $605,000, which is much higher than most of the surrounding cities, and it's even higher than Charlotte proper itself. But it's because of all the pros we mentioned, like the fantastic schools, all the great things to do, the unbeatable location, that it's a highly competitive and highly desired market to live in. So that is the complete list of the pros and cons about living here in Fort Mill, South Carolina. I think it's a good summary to help you understand if Fort Mill may be a good fit for you and your family, what you're looking for. I personally think the pros really outweigh the cons of living here in Fort Mill. I mean, you have fantastic schools, you have a lot of things to do, a lot of great restaurants, 3 different shopping and restaurant districts you can go visit at any time. There's some wonderful neighborhoods and some great parks as well. So I think it's a really cool town and one of the most desired in the Charlotte area. And no matter what city we look at, there's gonna be pros and there's gonna be cons. And one city may be great for one party, but not so great for the other. So one thing we do with our clients is go through lists like this, right? We discuss with them the pros, cons, and help them determine which areas may be a perfect fit for them. And we would love to do that for you as well. So whether you're looking to move in 9 days or 90 days, give us a call, send us a text, shoot us an email, or schedule a Zoom call with us with a link in the description below. We'd love to learn a little bit more about what you're looking to accomplish and how we can help you make a smooth transition to the Charlotte area. Thanks for watching, guys. Until next time, I hope to see you around town.